Hello and welcome back. I am Mr. Sosotris, and this week I wanted to start a new series-ish kind of thing where I want to go through my TBR of books that I already own and kind of divide it up by genre so I can talk about the books that I want to read. Oh, here comes the cat. The books that I want to read that I have instead of purchasing new ones. Now, this year I've been mostly on a book buying ban, and I have purchased like a few books, but not nearly as much. And a lot of them have been like indie books that I got for free or that were like $1 for like sales and stuff. I think I purchased like 2 physical books this year, and they were both nonfiction history books, and I have read both of them since purchasing them. So, you know, it's not really a complete book buying ban, but for the most part it's been pretty good, and I haven't like gotten any new books. So I'm focusing on the books I already have, and so I'm making progress on my TBR, but I wanted to do videos talking about kind of by genre, just so that if anyone is interested in that particular genre, they can maybe see books that they have read and they can tell me what they thought of them, or books that they haven't read and maybe they could want to check it out when they want to. So we'll just go through this. It's going to be really informal. I haven't really done a lot of scripting for this one, and we'll see how it goes. And there's a cat here, yes, and she really wants to knock over the stack of books, so we'll see how this goes. Anyways, let's get into it. Today I'm doing my Sci-Fi TBRs. These are all the sci-fi books that I have not yet read and that I am excited to get to. All right. First up on the list is not really a single book, but a series, and that is Isaac Asimov's Foundation series. Now, I've read Prelude to Foundation and the first Foundation book, but I've never really continued with the series. I do have all of them. This edition here, I got this from Barnes & Noble in the US, and this just has the first 3 books, but then I also have all the other ones in like trade paperbacks and mass market paperbacks that I've collected throughout the years from like used bookstores and stuff. So I do eventually want to read the whole series, especially with the TV show that's out right now, and that one's getting really good reviews. I think it's quite different from the books, but I still want to read the books because they're sort of one of those foundational, pun intended, science fiction sort of epic sagas that they're kind of worth reading. Now, I will say they're very much a product of their time. I know in the first Foundation book, there's like 2 female characters. Oh, she knocked over the stack. Can you go away, please? There's like 2 female characters, and one of them is like a voice on a phone, and the other one gets maybe like 1 line, and they're sort of in the background. So, like, you know, Isaac Asimov was very famously sort of not scared of women, but he was just like, he didn't really use them that much. But like, he didn't portray them poorly, because like, I know in his robot books, I know his character Susan Calvin, she's really good, and she's like thoughtful and intelligent. She's like a doctor who works with robots and stuff. So like, he can write women, he just kind of chooses not to if he doesn't have to. So that's better than some other authors like, you know, Heinlein, who, when he includes women, he is very misogynistic towards them. So, you know. Anyways, but that's a whole other thing. Anyways, Foundation, Isaac Asimov. I do want to read the whole series one of these days. Next up is another classic sci-fi author, and that is Arthur C. Clarke, and his book Childhood's End. I picked this up from a used bookstore years ago, and it's not even that long, but it's one of those ones that I keep like forgetting to read. And I love his 2001 series so much, and I love his short stories. I have a book that's a collection of like his short stories, and they're so good. He's such a fantastic writer, and probably one of my favorite like of like the classic ones, him and Octavia Butler. She was writing in the 80s, so maybe she's not really that classic. She's like Silver Age of sci-fi, but still really fantastic, and this is one that I definitely want to read. It's been on my shelf for forever, and one of these days I will get to it, but not yet. But it's small. I could probably read this pretty quickly. So, you know, I need to stop making excuses and just read it. Next up is Mary Robinette Kowal's The Martian Contingency. This is book 4 of her Lady Astronaut series. I've absolutely loved every single book in this series. The first one's called The Calculating Stars. It's like an alternate history where we've got a like a comet strike that basically sort of forces the space program to accelerate about a decade before it actually, we actually put someone on the moon kind of thing in the late 60s. So it's happening all in the 50s, and it's pushing into like colonization, setting up like a presence on Mars. There's a moon base, there's a space station, and it's really, because Earth is quickly becoming uninhabitable because of the effects of this comet strike. And so it just sort of looks at the effects of what happens with like 1950s technology. How would they, get humans into space, looking for kind of an alternate way of life to get people off the Earth while it is sort of coming unglued. And it's so great. I'm really excited to read this. She also has a book of short stories and novellas that's going to be coming out. It was a Kickstarter campaign, and so I think that's still in the process, but I'm really excited when that releases, because I love this whole universe so much. It's so inventive and just very, very cool. So I'm looking forward to getting to this one. Next up is The Dispossessed by Ursula K. Le Guin. I've read her fantasy books, her Earthsea series, really enjoyed it. This is one of those books where it's like a thought experiment sort of played out. It's like, what if you had sort of a group. There's a ball of, it's like a catnip ball over there, and it's stuck under the bookshelf, and the cat wants it, and she can't get to it, so she's like hitting at it, and it's making a thump. So just a second, I need to go save the ball for the cat. All right, the cat now has the catnip ball, and all is safe in the world. So anyways, Ursula K. Le Guin, I keep putting off reading her sci-fi stuff. I also have The Left Hand of Darkness, which I haven't read as well, and it's bad, and I know she's incredible, and I need to read it, but I have not. But this one just looks really, really cool. It's got sort of two worlds, one of which is sort of meant to be a utopian society. One is a very capitalistic, not post-apocalyptic, but very kind of late-stage capitalism planet with like lots of wealth disparity and injustice and everything, and then kind of the conflict between the two worlds and the two mindsets. So, and Ursula K. Le Guin is brilliant and always thought-provoking. Even if she never really produces easy answers, it's never like, this is how we fix XYZ kind of thing. It's always, this is a problem, these are the ways that it affects people, and then she kind of encourages her readers to sort of think about the issues and how they affect people, in order to sort of encourage people to think about the issues and maybe come up with their own sort of paths towards a solution, if there even is a solution. But it's more just, this is a problem that exists in society, what can we do to fix it? And that's, I think, why she is so valuable, and people should keep reading her work. Next up is book 3 in a series, and that is The McMurdo War by Bradley Lejeune. I've really enjoyed the first 2 books. This is sort of space opera, action adventure. It's very character-based. The character arcs are really good. There's sort of like the complicated relationship between sort of the main character and his ex-wife. And then there's also a bigger political sort of situation brewing. And of course, by this book, the conflict is sort of broken out fully. And it was kind of brewing for the first 2 books. But I'm really excited to continue the series. There's also a 4th one out that I do have, called The McMurdo Disaster, I believe. And then I believe there is going to be a 5th book to sort of complete the series, maybe. Not sure if it's going to be 5 or 6 books, but this is a lot of fun and I'm really enjoying it, so I'm excited to continue with this series. This book has been on my TBR forever, and it's short. I don't know why it's so intimidating, but it is Amal El-Mohtar and Max Gladstone's This Is How You Lose the Time War. And I probably pronounced the name's wrong, I'm so sorry. But I've heard nothing but like incredible things about this. It's supposed to be really poetically written. It's an epistolary novel. It's sapphic. It involves time travel and really emotional. And it's just one of those books that I need to just like start reading, because I keep thinking that it's it's one of those things where it's like it's going to be too good, and so I have to put it off for like the exact right time so it can like hit me correctly. I don't know. I just need to read it and get it over with so I can see if it's worth the hype, because this is one of those books that's gotten sort of universal acclaim and everyone talks about how good this is. So I just need to buckle down and read it. Hold me accountable here, people. I need to read this one. Next up is Kim Stanley Robinson's Red Moon. This is not related to his Mars trilogy. The first book is Red Mars. That one is Red Mars because it's like Mars is red and it's uncolonized at that point, so it's like the red sand. This is Red Moon in that it deals with a murder mystery involving sort of the government of China and their space program on the moon and all that kind of stuff. It's sort of a mystery and political intrigue and everything. Kim Stanley Robinson is fantastic. I love his writing. It's technical, but engrossing, and he also knows how to create really interesting characters and give them good arcs. And so he's one of those few that does like hard sci-fi in a way that it doesn't ever feel dry. Even when he's talking about something fairly dry, he still manages to make it just engrossing and captivating. And this is another one of his books that I really, really want to read. I do have a couple of his other ones, like The Ministry for the Future and 2132, and I will get to them eventually. But this is another one of those ones where it's like, I like this author so much that I feel intimidated to like continue, because it's like, you know, what if it doesn't live up to my expectations? Because the Mars trilogy was so incredible, and it's one of like my favorite sci-fi trilogies ever. But that's okay. I just need to do it because I know he's good and read it. Yes. And the cat agrees. She thinks that I should read this book, right? Yes. Next up is John Scalzi's Red Shirts. This is kind of his Star Trek spoof. It kind of feels very Dark Mirror from what I've heard the description, where it sort of takes kind of a funny Star Trek trope and turns it into this sort of deep dark conspiracy that the people have to uncover. And so this is definitely one that I want to read. John Scalzi is just delightful. His books are funny, insightful, darkly humorous, and very much my kind of sense of humor and vibe in general. And I've loved all his other books of his that I've read, so this is definitely one that I definitely want to. I said definitely a lot, but this is one that I want to get to, and I will read it eventually. But with physical books, it takes me a lot longer to read physical books because I don't have as much time, and so that's why this TBR is so big. So even if I'm reading constantly, I just don't get through these books fast enough. But that's okay. It's fine. It's good. I'm going to read this. I promise. Next up is Dan Simmons' Ilium. This is a duology. The second book is called Olympus, which I do also have. I've had this for forever. The Hyperion Cantos is one of my favorite sci-fi series of all time ever. His writing is just phenomenal, and I love all of his literary references. This one, of course, blends sort of sci-fi with Greek mythology. It takes the Trojan War and sort of imposes it on a conflict happening on Mars, and there's robots and aliens, and it's just, this is one of those big, huge, epic, sweeping books that I've wanted to read for a long time. And I am aware that Dan Simmons is sort of considered a controversial figure online, but it's one of those where I want to just read the book, and if there is anything in there that seems to reflect those real life comments that were made, I think they were made on like a blog post that's since been deleted. And if there's anything in the books that sort of backs that up, then, you know, I'll let people know. But from what I can gather, that was sort of a one-time thing, and it's not one of those instances where Dan Simmons is actively campaigning to harm people in real time or anything. So, you know, be aware of that. You know, you do need to be aware of the authors that you're reading, but, you know, people need to make their own sort of decisions as to whether or not they want to engage with an author. Other authors who are actively causing harm or like currently hurting people, okay, I'm going to choose not to read their books or talk about them, and that's fine. But again, people need to be free to read what they want. I don't want to censor books and force people to sort of ban books and be like, we don't want to ban books, we don't want to censor people, we don't want to be cops here. But if an author is controversial or who says something harmful, it's definitely people's personal choice to be able to not engage with that author, and that's a valid thing to do. So just be informed about what authors you're engaging with. All right, next up on this list is Absolution by Jeff Vandermeer. This is the fourth book in his Area X series, formerly a trilogy, and I really, really loved those books so much. The first book, Annihilation, is one of my all-time favorite sci-fi books, and I did really like Authority, and Acceptance was mind-blowing, and so I'm looking forward to continuing the series with this one. The only downside is that this book doesn't match the other book, because the other books I have is like the omnibus edition with like the white cover, and so this doesn't match that on the shelf. But that's okay. It's fine. It's good. We'll go with it. But I love those books so much, and I love Vandermeer's writing style. And this looks like a fairly sizable book that digs into more of Area X. And we got some answers in Acceptance, but I feel like this is going to like dig deeper and maybe leave us with more questions. And I'm okay with that because it's sort of cosmic sci-fi horror, existential horror kind of thing, and you don't really want a lot of answers. You just want that sense of like dread and smallness that comes from being faced with something so unknowable that you can't comprehend it. And that's why we love the series. So looking forward to reading this. And finally, on my list of physical books that I've got Heavenly Tyrant by Shirin J. Zhao. This is the sequel to Iron Widow, and I really liked Iron Widow. The book did have some kind of issues, but from what I've heard, the second book sort of it feels much more polished than the first one. The first book is very much a kind of ragged, emotional, like emotionally raw expression of like feminine rage. And so the book itself does feel a little raw and chaotic, but it reflects the state of the main character, who is really just so angry. And so by the end of the first book, of course, the character, like the main character, becomes a ruler. And so now this book focuses on sort of her with all this power. And so I've heard this is much more thoughtful, much more like measured, as we see kind of this character try to enact change in this world. And you've got giant robots and giant aliens, and there's a big twist that we learned at the end of the first one, so I'm excited to see how that plays through. So I am excited to continue this series, and I cannot wait for it to continue. I love this author so much. They are so wonderful online, but also just they're digging into things that you don't normally see a lot in sci-fi, and it's always nice when someone sort of goes off the beaten path and sort of messily hacks a new pathway through the undergrowth of unexplored territory. So looking forward to reading this one. Next up is an audiobook that I got. It was on sale for a while, and that is The Redemption of Time by Bao Shu. And it's a set in kind of the world of Cixin Liu's three-body problem. I don't know if it's necessarily a sequel, but it's sort of set in that world. And it has gotten sort of mixed reviews from people who have said, because it's a different author, he is sort of authorized by Cixin Liu to write in this world kind of thing. So it's an authorized book in this sort of continuity. But I've heard people say that like the writing style just didn't really work for them, and it just didn't seem like it fit very well with the rest of it. But I'm going to read it anyways. I'm excited to sort of see how it fits into the world, because I really love that trilogy. It's so good. And I just want to kind of see what it's like. The book itself I got on sale. It was one of those ones where it was like $2 for like a monthly deal kind of thing. So it wasn't really a huge investment or anything. So if it's not great, it's okay. it didn't really cost a lot, and that's fine. But I am still curious to read it just because I want to revisit that world. So if you've read it, what did you think of it? I'd love to hear in the comments. Next up, we're going to look at ebooks that I have. And the first one on the list is one that I just recently got, and it's called Outbound Recon by Logan Shields. This is sort of military sci-fi, which I like military sci-fi. I don't read a lot of it, but it's one of those ones that when you do come across it, you're like, oh yeah, this is great, because there's always a sense of like you can latch onto the main character because it's like it's all about sort of skill progression, skill acquisition. It's not progression, fantasy, that kind of thing, but just military sci-fi. There's always sort of tropes involved in that where you get sort of the person being inducted into this group and learning new skills and then having to face an enemy and all that kind of stuff, and it's complicated and everything, but it looked really good, and so I'm excited to check this one out. Next up is Nicola Griffith's Ammonite. This one looks really twisty-turny, and it kind of has that sort of Ursula K. Le Guin sort of feel, where it's like, what if you had a society where XYZ happened? How would things play out? And there's, I think, cloning involved, and it just seems big on like a really complicated sci-fi mystery. It looked really, really good, and it sort of grabbed my attention when I came across it. So I'm excited to read that one. Next up is one that I came across a while ago, and it's sort of been in my library, and I haven't read it yet because I keep forgetting, because ebooks, it's bad. When there's ebooks, you don't see them on like a shelf every day, and so it's really easy to forget that they're there, just sort of floating in your library. So I need to keep reminding myself that this book is in here. But this one is called Colony One by Tara Benner, and you've got someone who sort of joins a colony ship. She's feeling aimless in her life, and so she joins a colony ship, and then there's all kinds of stuff that happens. And I love the idea of like space station colonies. I don't know. It's just one of those things. I've always been a fan of that concept. The idea of, how would the community develop? How would it develop its own culture over time? How would people survive? What are the dangers that they would face? I don't know. Maybe it's this sort of weird desire to, be put in sort of like a closed community or something. I don't know. There's got to be something psychological about why someone would enjoy the concept of like space colonies, because they're always very cut off and isolated, and if anything happens, you have to rely on only the people around you. And I don't know, it's very Old West, maybe that's the appeal of it. It's like the concept of like the frontier, and you're on a place where you don't have a lot of supply lines and support from big governments or anything, so you're just kind of doing your own thing. I don't know, it seemed interesting, and I'm looking forward to checking that one out. And then finally on this list, we've got a space opera superhero story. This one's been on my list for forever, but that's J.C.M. Burns' Wistful Ascending. This one looks so good, and it's gotten really great reviews. I'm really excited to check this one out. It's just big and flashy and explosive, and I love superhero anything, so I'm really excited to check this one out. And if you have read it, please let me know what you thought of it, because I'm excited to read it. But that's the end of my sci-fi TBR. I've got other books on my TBR, and I will go through those in future weeks. But these are books that have been kind of sitting there unread, and they're not books that I've purchased recently. They've kind of been there for a while. The only one that I got most recently, I think, would be the 4th Lady Astronaut book. That one, I think, came out the most recently. But that was one that I got as a perk for backing the Kickstarter for the short story collection. So I purchased it like a while ago, and then it became available once it was published. So I technically didn't buy it this year. So my book buying ban is still okay. Kind of. Like I said, I have still gotten a few things, but nothing extravagant. I'm trying not to be just constantly purchasing books just for the sake of it, and then like ending up with so many things that I eventually get to the point where I'm like getting rid of books and sending them to like the used bookstore just because I don't think I'm ever going to read them. And I don't want to do that. I want to focus just on the things that I have and not go nuts with new stuff. So anyways, that's it for this week. I will see you next week. And in the meantime, happy reading. Bye.